Hello, everyone. I thought I would review the book Moby Dick, which I finally finished. And I must say that this has become one of my favorite books. I love the prose style. The prose style in Moby Dick is probably the most poetic and the most complex that I've ever read up to this point. It can almost overwhelm you at times, which is why I wouldn't necessarily recommend Moby Dick if you're just starting out reading classical literature. I might recommend starting with something a bit simpler, but I absolutely love the prose style in Moby Dick. Especially, there's this one scene that takes place during a typhoon that I thought was described excellently. I think it's one of the best scenes I've ever read, and I will probably go back and reference it when looking for how to describe things in my own writing. And of course, the book has a sense of adventure, a sense of action to it. The movie Jaws was definitely partially inspired by Moby Dick, and Herman Melville obviously knows a lot about whaling and all of that. And of course, the main character is a character named Ishmael, who at the beginning Ishmael is somewhat prominent. Of course, the book is told through his eyes, but later on he somewhat disappears into the background and becomes somewhat of an omniscient narrator. So I really don't know what to make of Ishmael. Sometimes I might think, is he even real, or is he the product of his best friend's Queequeg's imagination? Queequeg being uh, an islander, an islander that he meets along the way and becomes his best friend. And of course, you have Ahab, who is obsessed with capturing and killing the white whale, and of course, his obsession ultimately leads to a lot of tragedy. And of course, this edition of the book, which I think is a Penguin edition of Moby Dick, I want to eventually find a better copy because it, the book is somewhat torn up. It looks like I've owned it for years, even though I only bought it, I think, in May or June. So the quality of the paper is not very pristine. So I would like to find a better copy. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying of this version of Moby Dick like I did. You might want to find a sturdier version. But overall, I find that Moby Dick is an excellent book. I think that Herman Melville, in terms of his power of description, I think towers over writers that I think are very good. But he's definitely top tier in that regard. So I would highly recommend reading Moby Dick, if nothing else, just to enjoy some descriptive passages of the sea.